Hello, and welcome to 5-Minute Math. Today we are looking at the 7th grade concept of comparing numeric data. This is 7.12a Readiness Practice, the Proficient version. If you're interested in exploring the 7.12a Readiness Practice for the intermediate or advanced versions, or the Readiness Practice resource along with any other standard, you can find those by using the link in the video description. So we've got two different reading groups, and we have the number of books that they've read each month. And so reading group 1, reading group 2, they look very similar, but there are some slight differences. And down here underneath, we have a few questions. So we're going to compare the spread. So spread is how far apart, and that can either be the range or the interquartile range. Here we're looking at the range. So let's look at RG1. RG1 range equals, okay, so the range is simply the largest number and take away from that the smallest number. And that means we have a range of 5 in reading group 1. Let's look at reading group 2. Now, the only tricky part there is it doesn't go to 7, even though that's on the graph. That is not included because there's no data above it. Same with this. We're not going to go to 8 up here. Neither are we going to go down to 0 because there's no dots above it. So we're going to go from 7 down to 1. So you can see it's going to have a slightly larger range. So we can say that reading group 2 has a wider variety of books, so we can say probably has a wider variety of books because they have a larger range. Now, we don't necessarily know what types of books they read. That's not included in the data. But we can say they have a larger range, which means they probably have more. All right, so that's going to be our answer there. Because 6 is greater than 5, that's simply all we're looking at. We're looking at which range is greater, and that first one is complete. Now we've got box plots, local library. Track the number of books checked out per hour over 2 different days. And we've got day 1 and day 2. And they look like the distance is very same, but take a look at our starting numbers are different. So that might change things. Okay, so we're going to compare the center and the spread of the number of books checked out on day 1 and day 2. So day 1, all right, so let's come up with a center. Now when we're talking about the center, right, we can talk about the mean or the median. You can't really get the mean from a box plot because we don't have individual data points, but we can get the median. The median is going to be right here. That's going to be our median. So even though it looks like it's the exact same, it's in the location, you have to take a look at the actual numbers below, and you'll see that the day 1, the median is 15, but on day 2, the median or the center is 25. So it's 10 points higher. Okay, so we can say that day 2 is greater than day 1, and that's going to be 25 and 15. So it's got a greater median number of books checked out on day 2 than day 1. Now we can look at the spread. Now this one we're looking at the interquartile range. So that's going to be, we're looking at, let me change colors here. We're looking at quartile 1, quartile 3, and looking at the distance. So that's going to be 19 minus 11. So it's like the range, but it's interquartile. It's at the first and third quartile. It's at the two edges of the boxes. So 19 and 11. So that's going to be 8. So we can get that as 8. And then we could do the same thing over here. We can do spread. And that's going to be 21, 29, 29 minus 21. So that one is the same distance apart, so the spread is going to actually be the same. Now, everything on day 2 is like 10 books higher, but we can say day 1 equals day 2. So when we compare those two, we actually get the same interquartile range, which shows the spread of the most central 50% of the work there. So on which day is there a wider typical variation in the number of books checked out? And so we can say, to answer that last question, we can say each day, typically. Now, when we say typically, we're saying that because we don't know every single day. We're talking about in general terms, in averages. Has about the same variety of books checked out. And that's because they have the same interquartile range, if we're using that as our measure. If we were to look at our range, we would see the same thing. That's going to have a range of 20. So let's put this out, checked out, because, let's put our justification here, they have identical IQRs. All right, so that's going to work for us there. And then for number 3, I've got a dot plot and a box plot. And so that's kind of interesting. Normally we'll see two of the same kind, but let's compare one kind to the other. So I need the range and the interquartile range. All right, and so let's take a look. The range is going to be easy. The interquartile range is going to be a little bit more difficult because of that dot plot. All right, so let's look at our range. All right, so we've got, it's not box, it's brand. Let's do brand X. Remember our range is going to be the lowest number, highest number. So that's going to be 75 minus 50 equals 25. Okay. So brand Y is going to be 55 and 80. So that's going to be 80 minus 55, and that's also 25. Okay, so it's another situation in which we have the same range. Okay, so the ranges are equal here. So we'll just kind of put that underneath. We'll say 25 equals 25. Let's look at our interquartile range. So that's our IQR, and it's going to be super easy on brand Y. It's going to take us a little bit of work on brand X because it's in a dot plot. We can find it, we just have to do some work. So on this one, let's go ahead and do the easy one first. That's between 62 and 63, so let's call that 62.5 and 74. Okay, so that's going to be 74 minus 62.5. That's going to be 11.5. Now, for brand X, this is what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to find our median, and then we're going to have to find the median of each median. That's how we get our quartiles. Let's first see how many we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, that's easy, because when I've got 13, I'm going to have 6, and then my median, and then 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then here's my median. So I'm going to put an orange box around that. My median is 55. So my first half is below, and my second half is above. And so we need to find the median of each of these halves here. So let's find the upper half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1, 2, 3. It's going to be right here between the 75, or 65 and 70. So it's going to be right here at 67.5. This is my quartile 3 because it's the median of the upper half. Now, the lower half, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it's right here between 55 and 60, so that's going to be 57.5. And then that's going to be my quartile 1 because it's the median of the bottom half. So we can say 67.5 minus 57.5. And so the ranges are different, but the interquartile ranges or the ranges are the same, but the interquartile ranges are actually different. All right, so let's look at our question. So we can say 11.5, right, is going to be greater than 10, which measure, range, or IQR more accurately shows the typical battery life. Well, the range doesn't really help us, so we can say the IQR does a better job of showing typical battery life, and it's probably because it's the type of measurement it is. So when we're talking about typical battery life, we don't want to know the extremes. We don't want to know, from 80 to 55. We want to know what the average life is. And so because it shows interquartile range, so the range of the central 50%. And so what that central 50% does is it kind of cuts off the outliers on either end, and it tells us what's the range of the middle part. And honestly, I would say this brand X is a little bit tighter if we had to choose one or the other because it's got a smaller IQR and it would have a stronger center. If you are interested in exploring the 7.12a Readiness Practice Resource for the intermediate or advanced versions, or the Readiness Practice Resource aligned with any other standard, you can find those by using the link in the video description.